Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, and welcome to Topdecked, a Gwent Talkshow. Today is a very special kind of Wild Hunt edition. As always, I'm joined by Swim.
Hello. Hi.
And then we have our two special guests, JoeSn0w.
What's going on, everybody?
And Pumpkin. And you three are all actually attending the Wild Hunt event this weekend, which is pretty hype.
Yeah, that's correct. I'm leaving literally first thing tomorrow morning for my flight. What about you guys?
Leaving around 10 o'clock in the morning. Me and Mr. Pumpkin are going to go for another road trip. It's going to be sweet. Should be getting there around noon. Cannot wait.
Oh, dude. What do you guys talk about on these road trips?
Yeah, what do we talk about?
Plead the fifth? I don't know.
You got to generate some like road trip traditions. Like you listen to certain tracks and you stop in like specific places. I don't know. Like if you're going to the south, you can just always go to Waffle House or something. Like it'll be great.
We talk about Gwent the entire time and nothing more.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, we'll go with that.
Oh no! So now you just have to do like an IRL stream, just like get loads of mobile data and like hook it up, and it's like a road trip IRL stream with JoeSn0w and Pumpkin.
Yeah.
I feel like that's a no. That's a no. So this week we have some new cards to talk about, and we also have the Wild Hunt tournament that's happening. So for those of you guys who don't know, the Wild Hunt tournament is the first ever NA Gwent LAN being held at New Street Gamers in Philadelphia. And it's got a whole load of people from the community are going from NA Gwent. So Swim's going, Joe's going, Pumpkin's going. I know Lurtz, who does production, is going. Flake is going. McBeard is going. Who else is going, you guys?
Everyone. I mean, there's I think there's like 3 people in the NA Gwent, like in terms of like, you know, major competitive players or streamers that really aren't going.
Yeah, it's going to be great. I mean, Celebrate's coming in, even though he hasn't been streaming a lot lately. We have Vishra flying in all the way from Taiwan. It's just going to be so much talent, so many awesome people all in one place.
Yeah, basically anyone is going. So naturally, I'm not going. And there will be an official live stream as well that starts, I believe, at 9 a.m. Eastern on Saturday.
Yeah, I think it's about 9:30. I think the doors are opening at 9. We're going to try and kick off the stream right around 9:30. And the official event, you know, we're going to have introductions and interviews and stuff like that. The event should be starting 10 to 10:15.
Yeah, so it's pretty exciting. And the whole thing is taking place over one day. So it's pretty intense, a lot of Gwent. And there's a really, really cool trophy on the line as well. Someone tell us about the trophy.
Sure. I will describe the trophy. We decided that since Gwent people are basically pro wrestlers, right? There's just only comparisons you can make. We're incredibly similar to pro wrestlers. We decided to go with a official championship style belt. We had this thing custom made, custom built. It's got all of the different faction logos on it. This thing is sweet. If you have not checked out, there is a release video just showing off how awesome this trophy is. Everyone's going to want to go home with it. I don't know. It is awesome.
It's really, really cool. And like I said, the stream starts about 9:30, which is about 3:30/4 o'clock for those of us who live in Central Europe. And then you can adjust accordingly based on your time zones. And it would be really cool to see a good turnout in terms of viewership as well, as that might encourage future Gwent events, these kind of LAN tournaments and stuff. So that's something that I think is definitely... Oh, I'm going to be watching it for sure. And hopefully chat will too.
But in addition to all of that, obviously we got the 10 new card reveals yesterday. We are going to be breaking each one of those 10 down thoroughly here. And I'm sure we'll all have a lot to say. Yeah, no, I'm seeing the laughs. I'm sure we'll all have a lot to say about these. So, I mean, I guess we can just kind of take it from the top. Yennefer Necromancer, or we could actually start by giving an overall impression. Okay, so before we begin, forward sentence describing how you feel about these 10 cards being added to the game. Pumpkin? Oh yeah, no, whoever can, yeah, just throw it out.
So I think that they're interesting would be my sentence. I think at least half of them are basically for one mode, but interesting and diverse. There's some real home runs and some duds in there.
Card art's great. Some of the effects are great. Yeah, that's it. I look forward to seeing Poet in every deck.
Jaggerous?
Well,
yep.
I mean, I would say people need to chill. Those would be my 4 words. But I can understand some of the reactions. Like, I think, for example, Dandelion Poet is a bit weird because effectively it just adds 6 tempo to any play that you want.
Yeah.
Because it's draw a card, then play a card. So if you have a play that's 20 points, you play Dandelion first, you draw a card, and then make your 20-point play. I think that's probably the card I'm most concerned about, just because it means that some decks, which already have kind of huge tempo plays that you can't catch up to, can make them even bigger. And I'm worried that the game might get to the point where it's the winner is the person who draws Dandelion Poet, just because they have that extra tempo. And we'll see. Like, if you draw it first round, you can really put a lot of pressure on your opponent, especially if you're running decks like Reveal or like this Broover deck with Barkley that have these single card big tempo plays anyway.
Yeah, I think that probably only a handful of these are going to see too much play. I think my biggest overall impression is that Pumpkin? What's happening over there? Well, while it was said that some of these cards were designed for arena mode, and I think some of them will actually be very funny to see in arena. I think that in general, most of the cards will be pretty hard to play in arena. So some of them will be even harder to play in arena than constructed, I think. But anyway, without further ado, we can just go down, take it from the top. Yennefer Necromancer. What do you guys think about this one? This is a Nilfgaard 5-power gold resurrected bronze or silver soldier from the opponent's graveyard.
I'd be a little surprised to see this one outside the arena, but that being said, I think it's really nice for the arena. Soldier is one of those tags that you see on cards in multiple factions, right? There's not a lot of monsters that are soldiers, but in most of the other factions, you'll find soldiers. There's dwarven soldiers, etc., etc. Obviously, Northern Realms and Nilfgaard have a ton of them. So I think this is just like a fine value/utility card.
Yeah.
I hope it doesn't make its way into constructed play, but I think it's pretty cool.
I think, and by the way, I mean, just a little addendum. I think there's a lot of soldiers that you kind of forget as soldiers. Like Squirtle actually has a ton of soldiers too, as well as Vran Warrior in Monsters being a soldier.
I didn't even know Vran was one.
Yeah.
Yep.
You want to res a Vran?
Well, I don't know. You can deny a Slizzard on it.
In arena?
You could play it as an 11-point gold.
Oh, yay, dude. Let's concede.
This card will...
Always the optimist.
Okay, this card's terrible and constructed. In arena, it's okay.
I just don't get it, because you have Vicavaro.
Yeah, it's a gold
medics,
Vico.
right? It's yes, this target silvers and Vicavaro doesn't, but Vicavaro has no conditions on it. So Vicavaro is bronze. And what would I rather have, a bronze or a specific soldier, where if my opponent plays no soldiers, I have a bricked 5-power gold?
Yeah.
Why? It synergizes with Vainglory, so you have to take it.
Yeah, that's true. That's a good point. I don't know. Like you guys are saying, there's not too much to say about this. I'm gonna say it seems a little weird that it's a Nilfgaard card. It's a card that it feels to me definitely could be neutral, and it still wouldn't really. I mean, it would be very hard to fit into constructed unless as kind of a bit of a weird tech, maybe an improvement on Necromancy, the silver spell, if in theory there was some specific thing you wanted to counter.
Ronvid.
Yeah, Ronvid, exactly.
I'd rather run Necromancy than this card.
The thing with Ronvid as well is there's better graveyard grief. Caretaker, for example, is great against Ronvid, because Ronvid, for those of you guys who don't know, Ronvid doesn't reset when he goes to the graveyard the first time. He resets when he gets resurrected.
Yes.
So if you have Caretaker, if you win the first round, your opening play is then Caretaker Ronvid, and you resurrect an 11 strength Ronvid, denying them crewman and also making a 15-point play.
Did it
And
today.
it
That's how you beat Henselt on that blue coin.
Oh, it feels good. I love resurrecting and taking their Ronvid. But
so I mean, I think in Arena, this card will be definitely pickable, but like you still have to have a relatively bad pool to make it worth picking. I think that like downsides of like cards that might not necessarily be great round one will maybe even hurt more in Arena than in the normal mode, because it's something that you kind of have to play into a later round typically.
Yes, some of these cards feel sort of just slotted in there to how do I verbalize this properly? Maybe bring down the total potential of gold power. Like having medium range golds instead of just all bomb golds, I think is going to be helpful for the arena mode, and I don't think that happened by accident.
Yeah, and it'll be good in Arena, like, you know, when you see some golds that just feel like they're only tied to synergies, you'll at least be able to pick something that's kind of more neutrally viable, like this one. Anyway, yeah, there's, yeah, it's definitely a bit of an Like, if we could rate this card all on a 1 to 5 star rating, I mean, it receives a solid 2 from me.
3. Is perfect.
It's an out of 10, basically.
Yeah. Okay, so next up we have Roche Merciless. So Roche Merciless is a card that originally was shown as 5 power, destroy a face-down ambush unit, then draw a card on a Northern Realms gold. It has since been changed. They today tweeted that they removed the draw a card clause. So it is now, as far as we know, a 5 power gold that says destroy an ambush. Which, interestingly enough, is basically a straight downgrade to the Cyprian Willy card that we've seen in the past, in a pretty major way. I think that it's kind of Pumpkin.
Slightly, yeah. Goes from 12 value to 5, and it's from a gold to a silver,
and it's faction locked. Don't forget that.
Doesn't want it. Ignore all those things.
Okay,
dude, this Uma nerf is just so painful.
I think that they after tweaking that ability, they might go back and like retweak the number. There's a good chance. I mean, they could set this card to like a 12. There's no reason it really has to be a 5, but I mean, we'll see exactly how it works out and what they end up doing with this one. I don't know. What do you think, Joe?
Unused artwork assets and 10 cards is a lot better to release than 9. I don't know, man. The card just doesn't do anything, right? Yeah. It's just, you're never playing this. You're never wanting to put this in your deck. Like, even at 5, even if you get to kill, your Teruvial from your opponent, something like that, even in the payoff situation, you get the privilege of a situational gold exchanging with a bronze at +5 value. Like, there's just no way you're playing this card.
I think this card might have been printed because CDPR was on Reddit. There's been a lot of like hate for like the create mechanic, and I think CDPR was just trying to nerf Uma probably.
I'm really upset. I love Roche. For like some people might be aware, I have like a secret, well, not so secret love of Vernon Roche, and I want him to tell me that I'm what matters. But
yeah,
so seeing him as such a terrible card is just very upsetting. Like his regular version hardly sees play. It very occasionally fits if you're going into like a full test kind of that style of deck, and even then you could afford to cut it. So seeing Roche Merciless Beast just bad is upsetting. I guess it keeps ambush decks in check, because if ambush decks rise in popularity where they're being seen, they're getting play, then I guess you could play Roche. But like, I just like ambush cards kind of keep themselves in check anyway. Helena has 2 turns to flip, so you can just pass and stop her, and she requires a fight. Like, none of the ambush cards are that much of a problem that you would ever need Roche. And like, the only upside previously was, if you happen to queue into ambush, then you get card advantage. And it was like, hey, you've taken the risk of running this card and not being able to use it 90% of the time, so the 10% of the time you get an extra card. And then the entirety of Reddit was like, we hate people drawing cards. This is the worst thing in the whole world. And so people were like, oh, well, I guess we could. That is basically what happened. And so now it's like, well, the 10% of the time when this card was actually kind of okay.
Can we get a rerun on that? On what we think of Reddit? That voice was great.
So that's more or less it. You get it. It's a one-time thing.
One time only. Reddit hates drawing cards confirmed.
Okay.
So yeah, There we are.
Okay, I have to say, like, one thing about Roche, I would be surprised if they printed him as a 5. Like, we are in kind of the stage where, you know, they haven't deployed the patch yet. It is the easiest thing. You know, you don't have to, like, worry about bugs. You don't have to worry about, like, implications by just, like, tweaking numbers a little bit. And I think it's pretty obvious from the feedback that, you know, this card is very much not going to be competitive. I kind of expect they'll boost it to, like, 11 or something, although it easily could be, like, a 13 and still see no play.
Yeah, you can significantly bump this card's numbers up, and it's still going to be worthless, basically. You don't
but
want
it'll feel less bad to
LFX.
see in arena at least.
Sure. You know, you just raise the floor on it, basically.
Yeah, I think there's kind of no reason they can't do that, and I think that's kind of an important thing to keep in mind with the rest of these as well. There's a couple of, for example, we'll get to it later, but Dandelion Poet, there's a chance that they might bump it to 5 or something, because, you know, a lot of people are a little worried about that one, but for now. Next card is the other Dandelion Vain Glory. This is a 9-power neutral gold. Boost self by 3 for each Geralt, Yennefer, and Triss and Zoltan card in your starting deck. So basically in Constructed, since all of those cards are all golds, this card will max out at an 18-point value if you build around it in that way. What do you guys think?
Highlight real card for Arena. There's basically already an unsaid contest going on, right? Of who can get the biggest dandelion. This is going to be a thing.
It's not who can get the biggest dandelions. It's who can draft the most biggest dandelions.
Okay, that's awesome.
Have like 3 of these. Here's a gold lineup for you. Guys. 3 of these and just like 5 of the buff cards each. Like you can just have your entire deck out of these, you know?
I'm super glad something like this exists. The artwork's great. It's like him taking credit for this awesome monster kill that you know he didn't kill. Like, this is just a super cool card. I'm glad it exists.
What do you think, Pumpkin?
I like it. It's good it's playable in Arena, potentially. It's like a card you pick towards the end. If they made it strengthen instead of boost, do you think this card could see play in Constructed? You renew it for 30 in round 3?
But if you... Well, wait, you can't renew it for 30. Because... Wait. But when you run renew, that means you're only running 2 buff cards, right? Because they're golds. So you would renew it for 21, right?
Yeah, 21.
So it's kind of like a... It's like a more conditional... Nova. It's like... Well, it's kind of like a dash, because you play it as like a 15 and then as a 21. It's kind of weird like that.
I think it's really interesting in that the way it works, it's like very clearly designed for Arena because they've capped it in Constructed with its like description. So it's basically, like you said, it's capped at 18 at max if you run like 3 Geralts or a Geralt, Yennefer, and a Triss, for example. But in Arena, you know, if you get lots of Geralts, then it gets really strong. And actually, Vanilla Geralt, I think, is a fairly decent pick in Arena anyway, because he's just 15 solid points. So this is going to be really nice. But the thing is, you have to see it. Either if you see it early, you're then going to be like, right, got to find me some Geralts. And then if you see it late, you're like, oh, damn, I didn't like draft enough Geralts. So I think it's a fun card. I don't think it's going to be huge on regular ladder, but I think it'll be one of these cards that's like, holy smokes. And you're going to get some great kind of clips and stuff when it does see play, because there'll be that person who has like, you know, 3 Geralts, 2 Trisses, and a Yen, and then plays this down final play for a good solid number of points.
Also for the future, you know, let's say 3 patches from now, they start printing some of these major storyline characters at silver. That does a lot for this card's power level. Yeah. So if something like that happens, you really have to keep an eye on it.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I mean, the question is though, do you think they would do that? Are there examples in the game of like the same character existing as both a silver and a gold? I'm trying to think.
I don't know. Well, Maren, right? The new Maren is both a silver and a gold.
Oh yeah. You're right. But and the Witcher's
she's far less mean to the storyline, though, right? I think that's where the distinction is.
Exactly. Huh. Yeah, no, I mean that's definitely a fair point as well. It's gonna take a lot for this card to see play, but I like the kind of ability it is. I mean, any card with like any kind of interesting deck building implications, kind of like JoeSn0w. I mean, this is almost a little bit like JoeSn0w. It kind of requires you to mess up your golds and your silvers instead of your bronzes, and it gives you a bit of a finisher. And I think the numbers aren't really gonna make it competitive until maybe we see some of the silvers. But I like the idea that the card is going for sure.
I think it'll be fun from a deck building perspective of trying to build a deck around it that works and then realizing that that's not going to happen because it requires you it's entirely dependent really on the power level of Geralt, Yennefer, Tristan, Zoltan, right?
Yeah, exactly.
But some of those are faction locked. So Zoltan, for example, is Scoia'tael, right?
Zoltan Shive, but there's also
one, right?
there's the neutral one. Yeah, exactly.
Oh, Animal Tamer,
Animal
as
Tamer,
well.
yeah.
Yeah, but and also there's Yennefers that are faction locked to Nilfgaard. So in terms of a constructed thing, if you want to go for you don't have access to all of the Yennefers and all of the Zoltans, for example. Geralt, Igni is probably the main one that sees play. Ard, situationally, regular Geralt, not really. Triss doesn't see play at all. Occasionally you get Triss, but so because the current state of those 4 characters, they're not that high. This card I don't feel like is likely to see play just because the requirements are too stringent and there's better golds because you have to construct all of your golds around this card.
Yeah, no, exactly. I mean, the biggest thing about this card is that there's not really inherent synergies with the other Witchers kind of working together either, right? I mean, there's not really enough way to kind of gain value out of that because, for example, something like Igni and Yrden, they kind of overlap in terms of what they want to do for you, right? And there's kind of a lot of examples like that across this pool that makes them kind of hard to work together. Overall, I like the idea the card is going for, but a little bit on the weekend. But that brings us to our next card, and this is a bit of a doozy. This is Ihwahraquax.
What's that? I didn't quite hear. You want to say that again?
Sorry, it's Ihwahraquax.
Okay, got it. It's not.
Yeah, so this is a little bit of a I don't know the lore behind this card. It looks like a little unicorn doing a little dance. Can someone fill me in on this one?
I don't know it. We'll get no spoilers.
Okay. But basically, this is a neutral 7-point gold. When it comes onto the board, deals 5 damage to itself, and it says when this unit's current power equals its base power, deal 7 damage to 3 random units. Now, there's a couple of things about this. So, first of all, it means random enemy units. They were saying on the dev stream it doesn't mean random units. And second of all, do we have confirmation on whether this is a one-time effect or whether this goes off every turn?
I don't know. From the way it's worded, I would assume that it would continually work, but who knows?
See, I thought it would be every time you get to base power, so it triggers when that happens, and then it doesn't trigger again until it happens again. So it gets damaged and then healed, or boosted and then reset. That's my understanding of how it works, but maybe that's not correct.
I kind of hope it's like that, although I actually kind of doubt it personally. I am more in the camp to think that they probably just meant when it gets there for the first time, although we'll really have to see. So that's a bit of an unknown factor with this card personally. But basically the idea behind this one, most people are saying, is that you want to hand buff it beforehand, right? You use this with something like Stefan Skellen, which boosts it by exactly 5, and then as soon as you play this card, it's basically a 7, deal 7 damage, 3 times randomly, fire 3 random boulders, basically. So what do you guys think about this one? Because I know I was talking a bit about it with Pumpkin earlier, and it's something he and I are definitely gonna mess around with, if you can call it that. I don't know. What are you thinking, man?
I mean, I'm gonna play with Agora, a hand buff deck. I don't know. I don't want to play Nilfgaard. I'll Uma into Stefan and do this. I'm not gonna play Nilfgaard to play this card.
Stefan.
Yeah, it's simple. Dude,
I think it's so good with Stefan.
Yeah, it's great. Well, it's playable. Stefan.
Yeah, you pretty much have to play this with Stefan or some other hand buff effect, right? Because you're never just slamming down a 2-point tempo play, praying it lives through the turn, and also hoping your opponent has a bunch of mid to large strength units to get the payoff out of it. This thing's gonna feel really bad. You do all this work and it hits their Elven Scout with one of the pings. There's so many things that need to go right to get the payoff out of this. It absolutely has to be hand buff to get any value. I don't think this is particularly playable, but it's interesting.
I don't think it's playable at all, but I think it's especially if it goes off every turn, if you damage it and then heal it again, if you have it, I don't even know. I mean, there's some automated combos you can do with ships.
Yeah, you put it in 2 ships and you get a ping every turn.
Exactly. I mean, if it does do that, then it's very funny at least.
What I'm gonna do, I'm gonna queue into someone playing Ragnarok. I'm gonna play this below a 5. I'll Mardrome it. It'll go off. then it'll get ticked down, and you just keep Mardroming it.
Yeah, and all you have to do is run this card in like 3 Mardros.
Yeah, and then I'll renew it in round 3, and then Mandrake it, and then GG.
Absolutely, yeah, because it's going to be so big by then.
Yeah.
Skellige has the boats to ping it down, and then I guess Armorsmith to bring it back up, but they don't have any of the hand buff to get that immediate value out of it.
Yeah,
See,
that's what Uma's for, Joe.
Oh, okay,
I
forgot.
still think it's really good in Nilfgaard. You play Stefan, it gets 5, so then it triggers when you play it, and you can then, if you have Cantarell, you can then draw it, and you've then put a 13-point body on the board, so then when you play this, you've got like big targets and stuff. And you know, yes, there are small units out there, like there are some like 1 strength units, but there's also a lot of, you know, medium-sized units where you're likely to get value out of it. Like, I don't think that I mean, there are going to be situations where it's terrible and it hits 3 1s or something, but I don't think it's as bad or as some people are suggesting. I think it's just very situational, and you need to build your deck around it.
Well, but at best, it's what, 20? It's a 2-card gold combo, 21.5 points per card, right? Because it's Stefan for 15, and then you're using this, if it hits perfectly, as a 28, so it's 43 by 2 on the mean, so it's 21.5 cards, 21.5 points, sorry, per card.
It's slightly less because the 5 then gets removed, but yeah, I get what you're saying, but that's still good. Like 20 points.
Yeah, but that's a lot of
gold's not bad.
A lot of conditions.
That's like a very maximum case scenario. And
basically, they have to play Nova and have that only on the board.
Yeah.
But does it hit? Can it hit the same unit twice?
Sure.
Does it say different enemies on it?
It doesn't say
No, it
different.
says 3
Well,
random.
it doesn't
units.
even say enemies, so
Well, that's
we don't know.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, that's actually a good question. If it hits different units every time, then it's gonna be even worse. I don't see this card as having like competitive potential, but it is one of the more kind of funny effects. It's kind of like Camby, right? Like, obviously, you know, it's not something that wipes the entire board, but it's a combo that, you know, if you get a little bit lucky and if you like kind of set it up in the right way, and you can like build it in a ton of different ways, right?
It'll be making an appearance on the Dandelion show, that's for sure.
Absolutely.
I guess the problem, I was going to say it's a beast, so then you can play it in Moonlight and it'll get all boosted, but Moonlight boosts by 2 and you need to heal it for 5, so you're gonna be like one point like damaged and then 1 point boosted, and you're not gonna get the damage.
Well, Moonlight's getting buffed this patch. It's going to 2.5 every round.
2.5? No, it's not.
Yes, it is.
What?
It's
not.
just for this card right here. You play this, you play Moonlight, and then after 2 turns, it goes off.
You've probably just got a lot of Monster fans real excited there, buddy.
Yeah, and then the rounding is actually completely arbitrary on the 2.5. So sometimes it rounds up and sometimes it rounds down. So if you're lucky, after 2 turns it goes off. But if you're unlucky, you get like a 2 and a 2 or a 3 and a 3 and it doesn't go off. Because everyone loves RNG and Gwent. So I'm led to believe.
Yeah.
So should we move on?
Oh yeah, no, I think it's gonna be about that time. So the next card we have is Geralt Professional. On the picture there, it's in the upper right, and basically it is a 7 strength neutral gold. Deal 4 damage to an enemy. If it's a monster unit, destroy it instead. So you guys remember when we were talking about Roche, and I was saying that there's a good chance they're gonna change the numbers around before these cards make it live.
Yes, I do.
I don't know if they're gonna print a gold Aedirnian Mauler. I suspect they may not. So the condition for this card to kill a monster is kind of nice, especially in Arena. This card will actually be somewhat decent in Arena, and some people have said that you can kind of combo this with Frightener as well. But in that case, it's effectively probably a more conditional Eskel if you're trying to combo it with your own Frightener. Thoughts?
It's not good.
It's an arena card.
It's an arena card 100%. Through and through, this is straight up for the arena. You're not going to be happy to have it in your deck, but you're not going to be super sad either. The one sort of thing that this does have going for it is that the monster units tend to get very, very large, right? You have your Owl Ghouls, you have your Monster's Nest things. Maybe someone's going off with a Rakkus Queen in the arena. I don't know, but sometimes they do get... Oh, it's immune anyway. It doesn't work. Yeah, it's you're not going to be happy about it, but you're very likely to hit your 11 points at least, right? And if you do a little bit better than that, I guess good for you. It's, low tier arena gold.
Yeah. I actually don't think it's that bad. I might actually be inclined to put it ahead of Yennefer Necromancer, or at least kind of around the same level. At the same time, though, what you were just saying, monsters have big units. It's true that they do, but they also have a pretty big lack of engine cards. Pretty much their only engine is going to be like Arcaspor, which you're kind of disincentivized from killing anyway. So
yeah, that's fair.
Yeah, it's not amazing, but you can often get like just a solid whack with it and you'll be good.
I don't think it's good for the game. It's like the opposite trigger, but I don't think it's good for the game because I think could be problematic in tournaments when like you're teching against certain decks, because in tournaments it basically means if you want to counter monsters, like maybe your win condition is to counter monsters and you expect people to bring monsters, then you put this on all of your decks because it's neutral, and then you automatically have a card that's pretty okay at countering monsters, unless it's like Monster Swarm where it plays lots of small cards. So I think like it could be problematic to the point where people just won't bring monsters because people can just tech against it. So I'm kind of concerned about it on a competitive level when you can ban decks and make plans around it like that. I think that this could be a little bit problematic in that regard.
See, I think exactly the opposite.
Even if
I don't expect it to make top-level tournament play, but I think the game needs more of stuff like that. I think when you're building a tournament lineup and you know what you're banning and you're teching your decks, not knowing that you're not going to have to face a certain archetype, I think that those sort of deck-building decisions are really, really interesting. And I like the ability to sort of tech a little bit more against the faction. I mean, you see that against like Consume, you can throw Mandrakes in your deck, but this sort of just hits all of the variety of monsters. So, I mean, I see your point. I'm just on the other side of the spectrum from it. I think that it's pretty good for the game.
I think that it's going to have, I mean, even in the best case scenarios, I mean, Eskel is a card that's like, I think pretty decently far from seeing play. Like it was good before a good amount of power creep happened, and back when you could maybe like kind of have more ways of pulling it reliably. It's good when you use it on a spy early because you can just kind of smash a 20-point gold and kind of swing your tempo back in your favor. But the card at its current numbers, and like I said, there's a good chance it gets like boosted by just like a little bit in terms of those base values. We'll have to see. But if it gets printed at this, I mean, even if you know you're playing against monsters, or even if you're pretty sure about it, it's not necessarily going to be able to fit into decks. I mean, if you're concerned with killing something big, something like Igni will do just as much.
Yeah, but on the flip side, Igni is got the requirements that you have to. They have to stack a row, whereas monsters, when they do consume, often they'll like play a 19-point unit on one row or a 23-point unit on one row, which is out of Igni range. Whereas this is like you're guaranteed to be able to kill that thing. If they play anything bigger, you're also guaranteed to kill it. And if it's a dead draw, it's 11 rather than 5.
Yeah. Or you could just play Scorch.
The world for every
Pumpkin, what do you?
It's too good. It synergizes with Vainglory, and that's just in and of itself just makes the card busted in the arena. No, the card's garbage.
Yeah, I think it's in arena. I think it's in constructed. I think we'll see how it works out in tournament play. Like that's where I'm kind of got a bit of trepidations about it.
Yeah. Okay.
It's okay in arena. That's it.
I mean,
it's worse than Necromancer.
I'll pick this over a Vainglory in arena. Let me tell you that.
Oh, I'm definitely not taking this over Vainglory. Vainglory's
dude, are you serious?
Kidding me?
Wait, what?
Dude. I'll get like 6 Geralts and 3 Vainglory. Just win the game, and like you're gonna have this cute little professional Geralt for 11. And I'm gonna be playing these thick ass gold cards.
Okay, so next up, we get to Pumpkin's favorite card of the set. Pumpkin, would you like to tell everyone what this card is and what it does?
This is Morin, the Forest Child. It is a Dryad 6 power gold. Ambush. When your opponent plays a bronze or silver special card, flip over and cancel its ability. This is similar to old Ida in closed beta, I believe. I don't remember the numbers on Ida. Was it a 4? 5?
Was it not Shiro though? Shiro was one where if you played a special card, it flipped over and then scorched.
He scorched, yeah.
Yeah, but then Ida was the
I know
one
it's the counter
canceled.
spell.
Yeah.
They like censored the card art.
Yeah, what's up with that? You know, they moved her hand too. Did you notice that?
Yeah, that was part of the censoring. Like, casually resting her hand between her legs. I mean, you know, maybe that's comfortable for her. Why you gotta make it weird?
How do you sit on a tree?
Yeah, there's actually like a small branch there. She was holding onto it so she doesn't fall out the tree.
Yeah, that's all.
And her hair got miraculously longer. Interestingly enough, and decided to fall more to her left than like kind of centrally.
Let's show the passage of time, Jaggerous.
That is true. Time does in fact pass. How do we feel about Morin Forrest Child? She doesn't really look like a child. I'm gonna put that one out there.
She is significantly past child. I think we can all agree on that. Yeah, I don't know. I think this effect would have been really cool on a single card. I guess maybe they were worried about it with Isengrim that pulls ambush cards like that. I think it's just too far below rate to see play. The payoff's probably not there. A lot of the specials you really want to counter get tutored up anyway, so they're coming with the body. So, you know, let's say you counter whatever John Natalis brings. You have a 6 strength body, they have a 6 strength body, so you got your payoff and you're just making even exchange, which isn't particularly beneficial for you. I think it's just too far below rate and probably the wrong color border. But cool. I do like it.
But now Pumpkin can't play Scorch.
Yeah.
So clearly this card is overpowered.
No, this card's amazing. I play my villain Tredemirth and they can't scorch it. I love it. Busted.
So
no, this card's pretty bad.
It's I could go into depth about this card being bad. And honestly, again, I do really hope that they're gonna kind of tweak the bounce level because it almost seems weird how bad this card is. When you look at it compared to Ida, is a gold version of a silver card that existed before in the game. With one more point, which isn't worth the difference between gold and silvers, and that was back when cards were worth literally 50% less on average, right? Typically,
and that card didn't see much play,
and that card didn't see much play either. So it's almost not really going to be good in and of itself. And I think one of the more apt comparisons you can make to this is Aglaeus as well. In many situations, you know what'll happen with Aglaeus is you'll get the same or roughly the same value out of their card than out of the one you steal and use it yourself. So whenever that happens, Aglaeus is basically playing like this card, except it's reactive, it's got 2 points more, and most importantly, it bricks as an 8 instead of a 0.
Mm-hmm.
And of course, you have choice over the card you pull. So it's and you can use it in round 3 as a finisher, and you don't have to be concerned with tempo when you use it early. It's a card that looks intentionally very, very weak. And I think there's kind of no downside to at least, you know, giving it like a couple more points or something.
Do you think maybe... Oh, sorry.
I was going to say it's going to be really fun to run as a Bamboozle card. Because, like, ambush cards are currently seeing play. Like, you see Teruviel, you see Milena. So he's got to throw it in there as that little Bamboozle. And
yeah, you throw in a free 0-point play.
Bamboozle
yourself.
What you can do is the opponent thinks it's Teruviel, so they waste an extra card playing against your gold slot instead of your silver slot.
And then it's a spell, and then you cancel their spell, and they waste 2 cards.
I mean, there is a slight advantage that every ambush card just gets a little tiny bit stronger because of the additional options of what it theoretically could be. So there's that to it, but I don't know. What do you guys think about maybe this card being them testing the waters for this type of effect? Because when they removed the old Ida from the game, they didn't replace it immediately, right? They waited a long time to put this type of effect in the game. Maybe this is sort of testing the waters to see if people like that type of effect, and if it is, maybe they go on and make it more playable. Do you guys think there's anything to that?
Maybe. I mean, I feel like it would maybe be a little bit better if you could trigger it too. I don't know if you want to cancel your own special cards, but honestly, then at least you could hand buff it. But then I still think Teruviel's better in that situation for hand buff.
What if it doesn't go off and flips at the end of the round? Like Teruviel. So if your opponent doesn't play any specials, it just flips over as a 6. That way you at least get 6 instead of 0.
6.
I think that does make it more playable for sure, because then you do have the option of using it as a confusing kind of strategy, you can buff it and it's safe points. Because, I mean, you guys remember the meta where everyone was just ending the turn with like a to reveal or a buffed sapper. Like, there was a meta where that was a thing, and it just came down to like who had this like super boosted 30-point thing that flipped over at the end and there was nothing you could do. Like, that's why they started adding ambush counters in the first place. That's why ambush became blockable, because previously it wasn't. We just haven't ever had a meta like that since. So
yeah,
I don't know. We'll see.
I really think that more likely than them testing the waters. So if you look through every like kind of like card showcase dev stream that they've done in the past, how they design cards is they'll like design around concepts and like find the right concept they want, and then they'll typically like kind of sort out how the numbers work after that. And oftentimes, if you've watched a lot of dev streams or been around, they show the cards between that step. Like, for example, remember like Yurden got revealed as a 10 and then it went down to 4 or 5.
It also hit the entire board.
Yes, that too. I mean, they'll often show cards before the actual power level has been tweaked, and that's just like a simple slider that they can just adjust. And I really feel it's something that a lot of people aren't mentioning is that, I mean, I certainly hope that a couple of these cards, More Enforced Child being one of them, just, you know, get bumped up because they feel almost like bizarrely weak.
It's like so many of them are just I mean, like they may as well just call it arena at this point. With like, it's just depressing. Like we go and then like the one occasion of your card is like, oh, this card's pretty strong, and everyone's just like, well, we must nerf it. Like this has to be 10 terrible cards, otherwise, like everyone will be unhappy by the sounds of things.
Yeah.
Let's move on. There's nothing more to say. Ceres. Oh, I like this card. Ceres Fearless. 6 power. Resurrect the next unit you discard.
This is actually, to me, the card that's most variable. And I'm not joking. I think, to me, this card is more of an unknown than like Imlerith Sabbath. Even like it's. I want you guys to go first because honestly, I need to think more about this card.
I think a lot of it depends on exactly how it works. Does she have to be alive for this effect to happen? Okay, she does.
Well,
so
I wasn't answering. I was agreeing with the question.
Oh, okay.
I don't think she has to be alive, but honestly, we don't know.
No, it's an engine. You play it on the board, and every card you discard gets res. So you play this, and then you king brand 3 gold cards, and they just pop on the board.
If she goes through rounds, this is a serious card to watch out for.
Yeah.
If she does not go through rounds, I still think the card has the potential to see play. This is just the kind of card that can be completely busted or unplayable at all. It depends on how much of an investment that 6-point, do nothing card is before you play your brand, whether or not she has to live. There's so many factors going on. We need to actually see it in play and see how it works. That being said, it gives your King brand infinite more flexibility, a ton more tempo options. There's a ton of ways to do it. It could spawn an entire archetype because you'll be able, if you're able to reliably hit it with things like Royal Decree and then into King brand's ability and go for this whole combo setup. Like, I think this card has a ton of potential and could be busted, or I could also just see it seeing no play. It's not in the middle. It's not in between. It's not going to be okay.
Yeah, no, I see. I kind of agree with that. I looked through all the combos you can do with this card, and I think there's not really a way to utilize this card without like giving something up in return. Because you typically, like, obviously you don't want to res anything that pretty much any discard effect isn't something that you're already going to be using by default, because Lugos isn't a card that's seeing play right now. The one exception to that is Udalric, right? So to activate this card outside of discarding something casually with Udalric, you do have to go out of your way, and that is costing you points.
How do we know how it works with Bran? Like, which unit will it resurrect? Because if it's random and you're like, I'm going to discard
your first one.
And one other card.
Should be your first one, right?
I don't know how hard and solid that was. I do remember them saying first, though.
You can res your old geared. Play it as a...
Because I know that, like, with the Ceres, with her timer, it doesn't matter what order you click them. Even if you click her last. Previously, what you had to do is you had to click Ceres first to guarantee that she'd get a timer tick from Morkvarg, whereas now that's not the case. I like this. I think it's fun, but it's very easily removed. It's 6 points, so it's very, very easy to remove. It's really fun with Johnny, because you can throw a gold, gain a gold, play a gold. Like, it means that kind of strategy is better, but obviously you then have to draw Ceres and Johnny, so we'll see. I agree with Joe. Like, it's either gonna be like super fun. We're gonna get whole new kind of different kind of archetypes in Skellige, or it's just gonna be I don't know.
I think we need to know if it carries over into next rounds. I think that's
and also about like whether it needs to stay on the board, which I don't think it does. I'm pretty sure it doesn't. It would be very weird if it did.
If it had to stay on board, then it would be continuous.
I think it has to stay between rounds too. Then, so okay, basically, let me ask you this. Here's maybe the most efficient way to play this card. Like coin flip abuse, they play something, you play Ceres. Next turn, like maybe like Heim, Roach, Skjal, Udalric, discard something, and then res it. What do you guys think? Is that a competitive combo?
No, because you don't know what you're going to get.
What if you hit like 2 Freyas?
Don't run Freyas.
What if you hit like I don't know,
okay.
Another special.
The power levels there is just such high variance with Udalric. Like just the potential to abuse spy. You're talking about like positive value spies and very positive value spies that can almost be like a reasonable bronze level of tempo on the board if you're discarding a gold card with this. Like the power level's there.
It's kind of weird though, because like what if you get Restore and Bone Talisman? What if you get like Muzzle and Restore? At that point,
don't run them. Just don't run them. Just run only really big units.
I mean, one of the issues with this card is that it feels like a lot of cards have kind of really fallen behind in power level. For example, Johnny is at 9 strength. Sarah has a better ability and is at 11. And in addition to that, I mean, she obviously doesn't see play outside of very niche combo style decks, maybe. And I mean, it's a card that almost seems to have been forgotten about in terms of like power creep, because we've seen the game has power creeped in the past like 3 months, and that honestly I think is a good thing in many ways because it makes it easier to balance. But there are a good handful of cards that feel like they got left behind, and Johnny and some of the other cards that kind of scale with this, like even Warmonger and stuff, kind of feel in that camp. Ermion, most of the discard stuff, and it feels like you're just giving up more points than you're getting, right?
That's fair. What if you play Siri Dash with this? Does she boost and then res, or does she go into the graveyard and it's like, nope, she's back in your deck. You don't get a res. Like, what is the priority?
You get you
get 2 of them.
So, I think this will be a fun card to play around with. I'm excited for these kind of cards because they're fun from a deck building perspective. Like, maybe we could make Queen's Guard great. Discard all of our Queen's Guards, and then one of them automatically reses, and we get 3 Queen's Guards, we get 3 ticks, and...
or you could just play Freya.
Don't get me wrong. I don't think...
Don't tell anyone.
I don't think Queen's Guard's going to be
That's a secret strategy.
But it's just like, you guys are like... killing my
It's an Uma nerf. Let's just leave it at that.
I think this card looks a lot better than it is. I don't know.
Oh, you can manually discard cards. So then if you get it with Uma, and you just discard your card manually, right?
Wait, does it work like that?
At the cost of throwing away your turn?
Well, it's a discard, isn't it? So it would work like that.
The same as playing it, unless it's a skirmisher or an on-crate big boy. I don't remember what he's called. The one that whacks.
Is it ever worth it? That is the skirmisher, right? That's the guy with the little onion hat from Skellige that's bigger every time you res him.
Well, there's the guy that gets bigger every time you res him, and then there's the guy that whacks big when you res him.
Okay, yeah. Fair. Well, the guy that gets bigger, he might be a reasonable part of a brand pile to get like immediate tempo instead of Wolfsbane tempo, I guess. I don't know.
Yeah.
This is a swim job. You go build a deck with it.
I will be experimenting thoroughly with this card. I actually, in my mind, this card right now in the current card pool, after these are all added, represents, I would say, the 4th most constructive playable card of this set. And I think other people are putting it at like 2nd or 3rd, actually.
What 3 cards are you putting above it?
Triss Sabbath.
Yeah, okay.
Fair.
Yeah, I think that's fair. I think it's a fun card. Like, I don't think it's going to be hugely competitive. Maybe if there's like new discard cards coming in the future, it'll see like a lot of play. But I think it's fun from a deck building perspective. I think it's pretty terrible in Arena. Like, this is probably the one card I would like say isn't designed for Arena. It's just like, oh, here you go. You can resurrect the next unit you discard. You don't have any like, you're not guaranteed cards that trigger any effects when you discard. You're not guaranteed any cards which discard, but you can manually discard, which is the same as playing a card. So here's a 6-point gold.
Yeah, but Quacks is totally designed for Arena, right?
Yeah, exactly. Of course. Okay, so next up we have Dandelion Poet. So a lot of people are saying this card is like busted or like near auto include, or like you'll be able to fit it into any deck that like isn't too tight. I'm curious what you guys think about the power level of this card. So this card reads 6 strength neutral, draw a card, then play a card. So it's kind of similar to Shili de Tanzerville, except it's neutral 6 power gold. It doesn't require a spell, and you draw before you play, which actually does matter. It's also kind of similar to Giant Toad as well, if you want to make that comparison.
It's similar to old Saskia.
Yeah.
Except you don't have to mulligan it. You can play it with anything. You don't brick it.
It's neutral.
It's fantastic. It's much better.
The draw before you play is a huge deal with a card like this. I don't think it's going to be in every single deck. I think that's just a little bit hype. The decks that do want it, it's going to be nuts in, though. Because it just breaks fundamental rules of the game. This is going, I mean, your deck has to be one of those decks that's not looking for 4 super key golds, but needs that big tempo swing. It makes your deck more consistent. You're going to find your cards more quickly. It gives you a little bit of extra punch. I don't think it's going to be in every deck, but it's going to be in some decks, and it's going to be really, really good in those decks.
Yeah, it looks like a powerhouse.
Mm-hmm. Can it top deck Roach? Or will it pull Roach first?
I mean,
because then you can effectively add 10 points to every single play, or any single play.
That's a good question.
Playing a 15-point series is kind of cool.
I don't know. Like, they do have some issues with that kind of interaction.
It seems very inconsistent.
That the other day as well with Aileron. Like, if you swap a card, like let's say you play for Cheska and swap a card. If she's your 5th elf, you draw before Aileron triggers, so you can draw into Aileron, which I think is like nonsense interaction. For example,
some very I think Avalak pulls Roach first, or did they not fix that? Avalak I think pulls Roach first now, but Gales and Vilgefortz do not.
Vilgefortz doesn't. I don't know about Avalak. Well,
you mean Gales?
Gold goes on your opponent's board, so I don't think he pulls Roach at all, right?
Did they change it? They used to.
Wait.
It's just whenever you play a gold. It doesn't matter where you
play it. Whenever you play a gold.
Yeah.
They've changed Roach like 7 times.
Yeah, he keeps changing. I'm not 100%.
I liked old Roach. Free Foglet.
Yeah, I liked the one that was like 28 base strength rezzing from your graveyard. Gold immunity.
Beautiful. Gold immunity. Oh, feels bad, man.
Yeah. So I don't know. What do you think about this card, Pumpkin? Do you think this is like close to auto include? Because some people are concerned about this one.
I mean, it's auto include in decks that have shitty gold cards, which is like every faction. So, I mean, unless you have gold cards that are getting over 20 points, I feel like you put this in.
Well, there's also the consideration that a lot of decks don't like drawing randomly. Like decks that have, Harpies or Dun Banners or, whatever that needs to pull out that you're not going to be able to get out early. They don't really like drawing directly.
Yeah, sure. But, yeah, that's true. So there are going to be a few decks that can't play this card because you're going to have really bad draws. But for the most part, like, for example, the coin flip abuse deck that you've been playing with Barclay Cleaver.
Yeah.
Slap this and Roach on top
of it. Oh, yeah. I plan to.
It's gonna feel bad, man.
Yeah, it's gonna they're gonna play Yeva. You're just like, I'm out. Peace. It's been nice knowing you. Escape enter, uninstall.
Yeah. Good, this card is kind of dependent on the power level of other plays, like your kind of tempo plays. So, like with the Barclay example, that's where it's really strong. Or with a good hand with Morvran, where you can play this, then play Morvran with your Trebuchet and your golems and your foot soldiers, and then you just get like a squillion points. Like that's why this card is that's a real number.
How many zeros is that?
46. But the point being like that's why it's a problem is if you have guaranteed plays like with your leader where you're getting a huge number of points. I mean, on the flip side, we can play Dandelion Poet with our Stefan Scallon Iroquax deck and guarantee the Iroquax. Like I don't know. I'm just like, this card is very strong. I think this is probably the strongest card that they printed. And part of that is also because it's neutral, so you can play it in any deck.
Also, if this works with Roach the way that we're sort of hoping, or at least I'm hoping it doesn't that give every faction a 3-point spy?
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
Yeah, that seems problematic. That does not sound good.
I mean, there's this cool card called Rainfarn that exists, so...
Yeah, there's this card called Him that exists.
Yeah, but at least Rainfarn's a 5 and faction lock. I guess he finds it.
Yeah, but we gotta spread the love to all the factions.
And then there's
we can't just have
ADC Taller Dun Banner. It seems like Monsters is the only faction that doesn't have like a 3-strength spy already.
Heard of this card called Deals? But what if they remove spies? Then like none of this matters. Imagine. Just imagine. A world without card advantage spies. I actually think that would be alright.
I think the spies are okay right now. I don't know. Coin flip.
They're better than they used to be.
Yeah, the spies don't bother me as much right now.
But would any of you miss spies if they took them out? Like if they changed them so you didn't have card advantage spies anymore? Would anyone be like, oh man, I really miss Cantarella?
No one misses Cantarella.
When you put it like that, no, maybe not.
I mean, until they fix I Sir, I don't know. Remove spies or remove that card.
Worst designed card in the game.
Yep.
I think Monster Spies would be happy because their spy is freaking terrible.
Yeah, like, but you get to move the unit.
Power level.
You get
you get to move the unit. My bad. That's so strong.
Set up your lacerate, dude.
Yeah, and your weather synergies, and it's so good with Succubus because you can move that big target onto the road that you played Succubus on. Like, oh my bad. Like, Frightener is such a good card.
There's a fair amount of times you get the value out of the movement when you're playing fog-like decks. It's actually, like, I don't think it's better than having a choice of what card you're going to draw, but I think it's within the same ballpark if you're playing, at least 2 other effects in your deck. It's reasonable.
I'd rather 2 cards any day.
Okay, so the next, we've got 2 cards left to cover here. The next one is Triss Telekinesis. Now, this card is a neutral 6 strength. Create a bronze special card from either player's starting deck. So it's going to scan all the bronze specials from both players' decks and give you a choice out of 3 between them. Now, this card is actually one of the most interesting ones in this set, and there's a lot you'll be able to do with it. Pumpkin, you have a bit of a smile going on. You think this card's bad, Pumpkin?
I always smile. No, it's a good card.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
What do you think
about this last night? I mean, you replaced John Natalis with this. I don't know. John Natalis can brick every now and then. This will never brick. It's okay in Scoia'tael. You hit like Lacerate, Reconnaissance, and maybe a Thunder in your deck. Oh. If they do start playing this in NR, I'm going to run a shit ton of specials in my Scoia'tael list so that you never hit your winch. It's going to be great.
It's actually not bad. It's sort of similar to like it's got the power level of a Karametz, kind of like it's 6 strength and it gives you some bronze spells.
Yeah, but you get to choose the options to put in your deck.
Yeah, exactly.
You have more flexibility.
Exactly. And it's neutral, which is a really big deal. So for example, some like cheese decks, like any deck that tries to abuse Wyvern Scale Shield will run this because it gives you a 4th Wyvern Scale Shield, for example, which is huge. And if you're playing a deck that has pretty reliable options, like for example, like you were saying, replacing Natalis with this in like something like Henselt, if the opponent is just running like some tech options, which maybe like last patch Dwarfs there was like Thunder Charmers or something like that, it'll show you a winch, but it'll kind of show you more options as well.
Mm-hmm.
And Crow's Eye. Get 4.
Yes.
Oh, God. What do you think about this one, Joe?
I actually like this card a lot. I haven't been the biggest fan of a lot of the create mechanics as of late, particularly some of the ways they've been slapping it onto cards. But I sort of think this is create done right, in my opinion. It's a small pool. It's a controllable pool. You're going to put the cards in your deck anyway, so it affects deck building in this interesting and dynamic way. The numbers, if they're printed as is, don't seem too high, don't seem out of whack. I think this is sort of where you want your create cards to be, and you get a little bit of additional flexibility from your opponent's deck. Once in a while, something like that'll come up. I think the card's cool, well-designed, and I hope that the create cards in the future look more like this. So I like the card, and I think it's pretty good.
Yeah. There will be times where you can kind of override a Moonlight with a Blood Moon.
Yes, yeah, stuff like that's going to be really cool.
I think it's really strong in Alchemy. Is it one of these cards where you can draw 2 of the same thing? Because I thought with the create mechanic with like not Viper Witch, a Slave Driver, you can get 2 of the same. Because especially I think in Alchemy then it's really strong because you can kind of find an Ointment or a an Ointment or a Mahakam Ale, and also the Alchemy gold slots are quite flexible. Like other than Papa Vesemir, you can kind of more or less run what you like.
it should be able to show you two of the same thing for the same logic as Slave Driver. It should be, since it's not just like choosing from a preset pool. It's like the sum total of cards that you have, which means it'll include duplicates.
And then against weather decks, like you then have counter weather.
Yeah, no, potentially. I don't know. I think it's interesting. I kind of agree with Joe that it feels more like Create done right than anything else. And I think that it's pretty much only going to see like fringe play, but it'll do some interesting things to deck building. I kind of like the card. And then, of course, the final one, maybe the most talked about card of this entire set. This is Imlerith Sabbath. Joe, you wanna break this card down?
Love this card. This card is my jam. So, like, there's two things about this card. Its raw rate and its design. First, with its design, this is just such a cool card. You slam it down, it removes an engine. Sure. It creates this great sub-game. After I play this card, it incentivizes my opponent to do something other than just slam down whatever their normal play would be. Now, they want to try and play the super high cost unit. I then have my whole turn to try and bring it down to 9 or lower so that my Imlerith gets to live. And this whole little sub-game goes on, which is really cool and something I think that the game would benefit by having more of. On a power level, I think this card is completely insane. It comes down, it can kill a 9. I think it's super underrated. So let's say you play it and you kill an 8, right? You're already looking at 13 points of value, plus a free 5 on the next turn because he's just going to throw himself at something. So if there's an 8 on the board, the floor there is removing like their 8, preferably an engine piece, something like that, and 18 points, you're already looking at it. Monsters are decent at, they have fog to reduce the max strength of things. Monsters should be able to finagle ways to try and keep this around, and if you keep it around for more than a turn or so, it's going to just entirely dominate around. I think this card's very good from both the power level and design perspective. This is a day one premium craft for me. I'm going to be playing with it all day long.
Yeah, no, I mean, it looks like I'll be, having fun with that premium as well. I think that this card, on top of everything that you just said, I think that maybe even in addition to that, the fact that your opponent can try to proactively predict when you're going to play this card and make an effort. Like, let's say I'm against a Monsters player, like I'll go out of my way to play something big early. And then if I see you like start fogging it, maybe in a weird way or something, I'll like think, okay, this guy's got Sabbath. I'm going to like have to play more specifically, keep something big on the board so he never gets the line to play this. It's a card that incentivizes a lot of strategy on both players' ends.
I think it's the kind of engine that is really good to see in Gwent. It also has really nice synergy because you can also run the crone that tutors Mandrake, for example. There's like a lot of cool things you can then do with Imlerith. Plus, I guess it kind of counts as a buff to Whispering Hillock because can you not get Marjoram off that? Is that an organic card?
Yeah.
So Whispering Hillock gets a buff, I guess. I think it's really fun. I think in terms of engines, like Gwent's problem at the moment is that we have a lot of kind of easy points. We play this, we get 12 points, and engines aren't really a thing at the moment in a large proportion of decks. So this kind of engine, I think, is really fun. On the flip side, they could just Elders it, and then you're just sad. So
Panther this.
I don't. You're not really trading down that much, though. I mean, like Joe said. So no. Like Joe said, like they play like an 8 or a 9. You play this card, you win that duel, and then when they like go to use Ida Amin or something on you, you're still trading up. This card to me is very, very reminiscent of, if you'll remember when Open Beta launched and Ragnarok and Drought were at 3 each. It's kind of like that. It feels like even when they counter it, you're still trading decently. It's an option that, when they kill it, you're still trading up to like an Ida. You're still trading up to like a Panther. And maybe it's not amazing, but it's fine. And then when it runs away with it, it can just win you the game. Like those 3 damage weathers back then.
Yeah, it's a really interesting comparison. I hadn't thought of it exactly like that, but it makes a ton of sense. Because those are the axes that it's interacting on.
But instead of just being like rock, paper, scissors, do they have clear? It's like that, but done so much better because it actually creates, just like you were saying, this amazing little sub game that just feels really unique and different from everything else.
And if you want to remove it, you don't have to go that far out of your way to have some sort of thing that can kill a 5 with 2 armor in your deck, right? It's not like you have to Tekken Clear Skies just to deal with it either.
Exactly.
I mean, there are plenty of commonly played cards that will be able to have
exactly. I think I really like the design of this card. It's going to be just tons of fun.
A+ for me.
Yeah, and I think a lot of players are underrating it. I know I did at first too.
And then in Arena, you can draft it with Moran, Forest Child, and you can use her as like a shield for the Imlerith. You play Moran, then you play Imlerith, and they're like, oh, I'm going to Alzos your Imlerith. And you're like, not today! And it's going to be fantastic. I think like there's some cool interactions. I think it's a neat card. I didn't realize when I first saw it that it triggers every single turn. I was like, this is terrible. Like, why would you play this? But like once I realized it plays every turn, I think it's fun. And it's similar to Ceres in that regard, that it's kind of fun from a deck building perspective. And it's cool to see cards like that.
Yeah. No, I mean, I'm really hopeful for this guy. This is actually gonna have me playing monsters in the early days of the patch for sure, because I mean there's just a ton of cool stuff you can do. And mind games like trying to bait out the removal first. It's gonna be really fun.
You know what would be a nightmare?
Yeah, what's up?
This card, Mandrake, Trial of the Grasses, and then carry over.
Yeah.
Game over. You win all 3 rounds.
Yeah, just slap on an adrenaline rush.
It's also a wild hunt unit too, right? So it gets, the synergy if the wild hunt longships, I think they're called, or whatever, ever become good. You have that Nithril buff. Sure.
Yeah.
No, Nithril doesn't even do that anymore. Whatever. But the wild hunt tag basically is relevant, right? That's sort of what I was going for.
You can use a Guerra on this, buff it up, hand buff it. Yeah,
but then who would win in a fight? Like a super buffed up Imlerith Sabbath or one professional boy. I don't know. He's a monsters card. I'm just saying. You guys said that card was bad.
Okay.
That's my 10 cents anyway.
To be fair, you're still trading up with that card, right?
Yeah, you still are.
As long as you killed an 8, you're trading up.
Yep. Yeah, no, I mean it'll be really exciting to see how this and Ceres play out, because those are two that are very kind of uncertain at this time, and of course it can be a sign of like good design. A lot of people are saying that a lot of these cards are underwhelming, and I think that's very true. I think some of the power levels need to be tweaked for sure, but there's just like 2 or 3 cards that I do actually really love from the set. Anyway, that's gonna be all the time we have today. Anybody would like to give any shout outs? JoeSn0w, obviously we're all going to the Wild Hunt event, and I'm going to be seeing you guys tomorrow, actually.
Can't wait to see you, man. It's going to be awesome. I do want to shout out Watchflake and Always Turtle, who have just flown in from Canada, our tundra-like brother from the north. They have come down. They're in Philadelphia. They're ready for the Wild Hunt. If you guys aren't going to be there, if you can't be there, come, stop by, see the check it out on Twitch. We're going to be streaming. Everyone's going to be watching. This is going to be the event of the year. You guys don't want to miss it.
It's going to be fun. Swim, are you doing an IRL stream on the after party?
I might. I just might.
That'll be fun.
Maybe.
That means don't get too drunk. Or Swim will show you on the camera.
What?
I don't care. No, the idea will be to get Swim drunk.
You guys will have to spike my water.
Yeah, I was going to say, Swim just sips water, so that's never going to work.
I very much value my hydration, Pumpkin. I don't know if you've noticed. I am a man who likes to stay hydrated, and the thing about alcohol is it dehydrates you, so I just got to steer clear of that,
All right, well, you can carry around a gallon of water with you wherever you go.
Balance can be achieved.
You gotta be careful, Swim. Like, these Wild Hunt boys do not mess around, apparently. So many shoutouts?
Me?
Yeah, the other Swims that are in this.
Oh, yeah, no, of course. I'd like to give a shout out to all the Wild Hunt event in general. That's actually kind of a cop out because we're already talking about it. But it's going to be a blast, and I invite you guys all to tune in on the Nerd Street Gamers Twitch channel at 10 a.m. on Saturday. It should be a lot of fun, and I will be casting some matches.
Is it actually is the street called Nerd Street, or is that just the name of the building?
It's on Third Street, so it's like a play on words.
Oh God.
Okay, so there is a little bit of a play on words there, but it's not quite. Yeah. It's not quite.
Pumpkin.
Oh dear, I need to do a shout out. Oh, I got to pick someone from the chat. I always pick someone from the chat, and I didn't preempt it. So we'll see. Whoever is the next person to say someone in chat gets a shout out. This is going to be fun because it's
Pumpkin, you got it. Oh my god.
Yeah, so shout outs to SirPumpkn. He's clearly
you
not
guys
the person
spelled my name wrong.
I was gonna say he's clearly not the person on this stream because on this stream we have a pumpkin with an eye, whereas that was a different person. So there we go. And I guess also shout outs to Raisin, because Raisin is using Jag emotes in the chat. They're few and far between, but they do show up occasionally. That's about it. I'm really excited for World Hunt. I hope you guys are too. Do we have anything to announce for Topdeck? Like clips and stuff?
Oh yeah, we do. Would you like to announce the
Oh yeah, so Topdeck is looking to collect Twitch clips. If you are a streamer or a viewer of streams, which all of you are considering that you're here, we are on the hunt for Twitch clips of Gwent for a new series. And if you have any that are cool, funny, or just generally insane, if you can email them to info@topdeck.pro, right?
Yes, that's correct.
That's correct. Or you can post them on our Discord. I'll link our Discord in the chat. So the Topdeck Gwent Discord, you could also post them in there. If you post them in the we'll go Topdeck critique channel, that's something that you can do. Yeah, I think that's about it.
Oh yeah, no, I mean this is going to be for a weekly segment that we're going to be doing where me and Jaggerous are effectively going to be reviewing these clips. So it'll be a great opportunity for that if you want to send anything. Anyway, that's going to be it for us this week. We will see you guys later. Now we just have a little goodbye.
Bye.